Cirque de Freak series by Darren Shan. This is actually a horror series, and it ends up being very vampire-ish, but it doesn't start out that way. There is a movie that takes the first two books, A Living Nightmare and Vampire's Assistant, and puts those together. I've not seen the movie, but I heard it's just as good as the books. I've had many boys over the years. I've had a couple of girls read the series, but mostly boys, and every single time they have read as many as they could read in the year, and many people have finished the whole entire series. So I've only read the first one. It was really good, and I'm not even a vampire person. It starts out, Darren Shan, the main character is Darren. It's not a true story, but he makes himself a main character. He has a fascination with spiders, and Darren and his friend Steve actually get a ticket. They get tickets to this freak show, which kids aren't supposed to be able to go to the freak show, but they somehow get tickets. And what the freak show is, it's basically humans that either are deformed, like they might have an arm coming out of a weird place, or two heads, or some deformity about them, or some sort of freakish power or freakish skill that they can do. And they actually have them in cages, and they go and they just watch it. It's kind of like a circus type of thing. Well, there's a man there, Mr. Creepsley, who has a pet tarantula. So, of course, Darren is very entranced by that. As they're sitting and watching, Mr. Creepsley he plays a little flute, and the spider crawls up his body and onto his face and dangles over his mouth, and then he plays the flute and it goes away. So it's basically a trained tarantula. Well, Darren is all about that. But he notices his friend Steve is just in a trance. He's just watching Mr. Creepsley, and he's being really weird. So Darren follows Steve after the show and watches him, and Steve goes up to Mr. Creepsley in private and says, "I know you're a vampire, and I want you to make me one too." So Darren is very freaked out by this, and keeps the secret to himself, but in the meantime, he thinks it would be a good idea to steal the tarantula. So Darren steals the tarantula. So if you can imagine this tarantula that's only trained by Mr. Creepsley, what some of the horrible things could happen. And then, yes, and I don't want to give away anything else, but as you can tell, there's going to be some crazy things happening in this book. Cirque de Freak series by Darren Shan.